The Bill of Life. The Second Civil War, also known as the Heartland War, was a long, bloody conflict fought over a single issue. To end the war, a set of constitutional amendments known as the Bill of Life was passed. It satisfied both the pro-life and the pro-choice armies. The Bill of Life states that a human life may not be touched from the moment of conception until a child reaches the age of 13. However, between the ages of 13 and 18, a parent may choose to retroactively abort a child, on the condition that the child's life doesn't technically end. The process in which a child is both terminated yet kept alive is called unwinding. Unwinding is now a common and accepted practice in society. Part 1. Triplicate. I was never going to amount to much anyway, but now, statistically speaking, there's a better chance that some part of me will go on to greatness somewhere in the world. I'd rather be partially great than entirely useless. Samson Ward. 1. Connor. There are places you can go, Ariana tells him, and a guy smart as you has a decent chance of surviving to 18. Connor isn't so sure, but looking into Ariana's eyes makes his doubts go away, only for a moment. Her eyes are sweet violet with streaks of gray. She's such a slave to fashion, always getting the newest pigment injections the second it's in style. Connor was never into that. He's always kept his eyes the color they came in, brown. He never even got tattoos like so many kids these days when they're little. The only color on his skin is the tan it takes during summer, but now, in November, that tan is long faded. He tries not to think about the fact that he'll never see the summer again, at least not as Connor Lassiter. He still can't believe that his life is being stolen away from him at 16. Ariana's violet eyes begin to shine as they fill with tears that flow down her cheeks when she blinks. Connor, I'm so sorry. She holds him, and for a moment it seems as if everything is okay, as if they're the only two people on Earth. For an instant, Connor feels invincible, untouchable. But she lets go, and the moment passes and the world around them returns. Once more he can feel the rumble of the freeway beneath them as cars pass by, not knowing or caring that he's there. Once more, he is just a Mark's kid, a week short of unwinding. The soft, hopeful things Ariana tells him doesn't help now. He can barely hear her over the rush of traffic. This place, where they hide from the world, is one of those dangerous places that make adults shake their heads, grateful their own kids aren't stupid enough to hang out on the ledge of a freeway overpass. For Connor, it's not about stupidity or even rebellion. It's about feeling life. Sitting on this ledge, hidden behind the exit sign, is where he feels most comfortable. Sure, one false step and he's roadkill. Yet for Connor, life on the edge is home. There have been no other girls he's brought here, although he hasn't told Ariana that. He closes his eyes, feeling the vibration of traffic as if it's pulsing through his veins, a part of him. This has always been a good place to get away from fights with his parents or when he just feels generally boiled. But now Connor is beyond boiled, even beyond fighting with his mom and dad. There's nothing more to fight about. His parents signed the order. It's a done deal. We should run away, Ariana says. I'm fed up with everything too. My family, school, everything. I could kick AWOL and never look back. Connor hangs on the thought. The idea of kicking AWOL by himself terrifies him. He might put up a tough front. He might act like the bad boy at school. But running away on his own? He doesn't even know if he has the guts. But if Ariana comes, that's different. That's not alone. Do you mean it? Ariana looks at him with her magical eyes. Sure. Sure I do. I could leave here, if you asked me. Connor knows this is major. Running away with an unwind? That's commitment. The fact that she would do it moves him beyond words. He kisses her, and in spite of everything going on in his life, Connor suddenly feels like the luckiest guy in the world. He holds her, maybe a little too tightly because she starts to squirm. It just makes him want to hold her even more tightly, but he fights the urge and lets go. She smiles at him. AWOL, she says. What does that mean, anyway? It's an old military term or something, Connor says. Means absent without leave. Ariana thinks about it and grins. More like alive without lectures. Connor takes her hand, trying not to squeeze it too tightly. She said she'd go with him if he asked her. Only now does he realize he hasn't actually asked her yet. Will you come with me, Ariana? Ariana smiles and nods. Sure, she says. Sure I will. Ariana's parents don't like Connor. We always knew he'd be an unwind. He can just hear them saying. You should have stayed away from that Lassiter boy. He was never Connor to them. He was always that Lassiter boy. They think that just because he's been in and out of disciplinary school they have the right to judge him. Still, when he walks her home that afternoon he stops short of her door, hiding behind a tree as she goes inside. Before he heads home he thinks how hiding is now going to be a way of life for both of them. Home. Connor wonders how he can call the place he lives home when he's about to be evicted, not just from the place he sleeps, but from the hearts of the people who are supposed to love him. His father sits in a chair, watching the news as Connor enters. Hi, Dad. His father points at some random carnage on the news. Clappers again. What did they hit this time? They blew up an Old Navy on the North Akron Mall. Says Connor. You'd think they'd have better taste. I don't find that funny. Connor's parents don't know that Connor knows he's being unwound. He wasn't supposed to find out, but Connor was, and always has been, good at ferreting out secrets. 3 weeks ago, while looking for a stapler in his dad's home office, he found airplane tickets to the Bahamas. They were going on a family vacation over Thanksgiving. One problem, though. There were only 3 tickets. His mother, his father, and his younger brother. No ticket for him. At first, he just figured the ticket was somewhere else, but the more he thought about it, the more it seemed wrong. So Connor looked a little deeper when his parents were out and he found it. The Unwind order. It had been signed in an old-fashioned triplicate. The white copy was already gone, off with the authorities. The yellow copy would accompany Connor to his end, and the pink would stay with his parents as evidence of what they had done. Perhaps they would frame it and hang it alongside his first-grade picture. The date of the order was the day before the Bahamas trip. He was going off to be unwound, and they were going on a vacation to make themselves feel better about it. The unfairness of it made Connor want to break something. It made him want to break a lot of things, but he hadn't. For once he had held his temper. Aside from a few fights at school that weren't his fault, he kept his emotions hidden. He kept what he knew to himself. Everyone knew that an unwind order was irreversible, so screaming and fighting wouldn't change a thing. Besides, he found a certain power in knowing his parents' secret. Now the blows he could deal them were so much more effective. Like the day he brought flowers home for his mother, and she cried for hours. Like the B+ he brought home on a science test, best grade he ever got in science. He handed it to his father, who looked at it, the color draining from his face. See, Dad? My grades are getting better. I could even bring up my science grade to an A by the end of the semester. An hour later, his father was sitting in the chair, still clutching the test in his hand, staring blankly at the wall. Connor's motivation was simple: make them suffer. Let them know for the rest of their lives what a horrible mistake they made. But there was no sweetness to this revenge. Now, 3 weeks of rubbing it in their faces has made him feel no better. In spite of himself, he's starting to feel bad for his parents, and he hates that he feels that way. Did I miss dinner? His father doesn't look away from the TV. Your mother left a plate for you. Connor heads off towards the kitchen, but halfway there he hears, Connor? He turns to see his father looking at him. Not just looking, but staring. He's going to tell me now, Connor thinks. He's going to tell me they're unwinding me, and then break down in tears, going on and on about how sorry he is about it all. If he does, Connor just might accept his apology. He might even forgive him, and then tell him that he doesn't plan to be here when the juvie cops come to take him away. But in the end, all his father says is, Did you lock the door when you came in? I'll do it now. Connor locks the door, then goes to his room, no longer hungry for whatever his mother saved for him. At 2 a.m, Connor dresses in black and fills a backpack with things that really matter to him. He still has room for 3 changes of clothes. He finds it amazing, when he comes down to it, how few things are worth taking. Memories, mostly. Reminders of a time before things went so wrong between him and his parents. Between him and the rest of the world. Connor peeks in on his brother, thinking about waking him to say goodbye, then decides it's not a good idea. He silently slips out into the night. He can't take his bike because he had installed an anti-theft tracking device. Connor never considered that he might be the one stealing it. Ariana has bikes for the both of them, though. Ariana's house is a 20-minute walk if you take the conventional route. Suburban Ohio neighborhoods never really have streets that go in straight lines, so instead he takes the more direct route, through the woods, and makes it there in 10. The lights in Ariana's house are off. He expected this. It would have been suspicious if she'd stayed awake all night. Better to pretend she's sleeping so she won't alert any suspicion. He keeps his distance from the house. Ariana's yard and front porch are equipped with motion sensor lights that comes on whenever anything moves into range. They're meant to scare off wild animals and criminals. Ariana's parents are convinced that Connor is both. He pulls out his phone and dials the familiar number. From where he stands in the shadows at the edge of the backyard, he can hear it ringing from her room upstairs. Connor disconnects quickly and ducks further back into the shadows for fear that Ariana's parents may be looking out of their windows. What is she thinking? Ariana's supposed to leave her phone on vibrate. He makes a wide arc around the edge of the backyard, wide enough not to set off the lights, and although a light comes on when he steps onto the front porch, only Ariana's bedroom faces that way. She comes to the door a few moments later, opening it, not quite wide enough for her to come out or for him to go in. "Hi, are you ready?" asks Connor. Clearly she's not. She wears a robe over satin pajamas. "You didn't forget, did you?" No, I didn't forget." "So hurry up. The sooner we get out of here, the more lead we'll get before anyone knows we're gone." "Connor," she says, "here's the thing." And the truth is right there in her voice. In the way, it's such a strain for her to even say his name, the quiver of an apology lingering in the air like an echo. She doesn't have to say anything after that, because he knows, but he lets her say it. Because he sees how hard it is for her, and he wants it to be. He wants it to be the hardest thing she's ever done in her life. "Connor, I really want to go, I do, but it's just a really bad time for me. My sister's getting married, and she picked me to be the maid of honor. And then there's school." "You hate school. You said you'd be dropping out when you turned 16. "Testing out," she says. "There's a difference." "So you're not coming?" "I want to. I really, really want to, but I can't." "So everything we talked about was a lie?" "No," Ariana says. "It was a dream. Reality got in the way, that's all. And running away doesn't solve anything." "Running away is the only way to save my life," Connor hisses. "I'm about to be unwound, in case you forgot." She gently touches his face. "I know," she says, "but I'm not." Then a light comes on at the top of the stairs, and reflexively, Ariana closes the door a few inches. "Ari," Connor hears her mother say. "What is it? What are you doing the door?" Connor backs up out of view, and Ariana turns to look up the stairs. "Nothing, Mom. I just thought I saw a coyote from my window. I just wanted to make sure the cats weren't out." "The cats are upstairs, honey. Close the door and go back to bed." "So I'm a coyote," says Connor. "Shush," says Ariana, closing the door until there's just a tiny slit, and all he can see is the edge of her face and a single violet eye. "You'll get away. I know you will. Call me once you're somewhere safe." Then she closes the door. Connor stands there for the longest time, until the motion sensor lights go out. Being alone had not been part of his plan, but he realizes it should have been. From the moment his parents signed those papers, Connor was alone. He can't take a train, he can't take a bus. Sure, he has enough money, but nothing's leaving until morning, and by then they'll be looking for him, in all the obvious places. Unwinds on the run are so common these days, they have whole teams of juvie cops dedicated to finding them. The police have it down to an art. He knows he'll be able to disappear in the city, because there are so many faces you never see the same one twice. He knows he can also disappear in the country, where people are so few and far between. He could set up a house in an old barn and no one would think to look. But then, Connor figures the police probably already thought of that. They probably have every old barn set up to spring like a rat trap, snaring kids like him, or maybe he's just being paranoid. No, Connor knows his situation calls for justified caution, not just for tonight, but for the next 2 years. Then once he turns 18, he's home free. After that, sure, they can throw him in jail, they can put him on trial, but they can't unwind him. Surviving that long is the trick. Down by the interstate, there's a rest stop where truckers pull off the road for the night. This is where Connor goes. He figures he can slip out the back of an 18-wheeler, but quickly learns that the truckers keep their cargoes locked. He curses himself for not having the forethought enough to consider that. Thinking ahead has never been one of Connor's strong points. If it was, he might not have gotten into the various situations that have plagued him over the past few years. Situations that got him labeled as troubled and at risk, and finally the last label, Unwind. There are about 20 parked trucks and a brightly lit diner where a half-dozen truckers eat. It's 3:30 in the morning. Apparently the truckers have their own biological clocks. Connor watches and waits. Then, at about 3:45, a police cruiser pulls silently into the truck stop. No lights, no siren. It slowly circles the lot like a shark. Connor thinks he can hide until he sees a second police car pulling in. There are too many lights over the lot for Connor to hide in the shadows, and he can't bolt without being seen in the bright moonlight. A patrol car comes out around the far end of the lot. In a second, its headlights will be on him, so he rolls beneath the truck and prays the cops haven't seen him. He watches as the patrol car wheels slowly roll past. On the other side of the 18-wheeler, the second patrol car passes in the opposite direction. Maybe this is just a routine check, he thinks. Maybe they're not looking for me. But the more he thinks about it, the more he convinces himself that's the case. They can't know he's gone yet. His father sleeps like a log and his mother never checks on Connor during the night anymore. Still, the police cars circle. From his spot beneath the truck, Connor sees the driver's door of another 18-wheeler open. No, it's not the driver's door. It's the door to the little bedroom behind the cab. A trucker emerges, stretching, and heads to the truck stop bathrooms, leaving the door ajar. In the hairbreadth moment, Connor makes a decision and bolts from his hiding spot, racing across the lot to that truck. Loose gravel skids out from under his feet as he runs. He doesn't know where the cops' cars anymore, but it doesn't matter. He's committed himself to this course of action, and he has to see it through. As he nears the doors, he sees the headlights arcing around to turn towards him. He pulls the door to the trucker's sleeper, hurls himself inside, and pulls the door closed behind him. He sits on the bed, not much bigger than a cot, catching his breath. What was his next move? The trucker will be back. Connor has about 5 minutes if he's lucky, 1 minute if he's not. He peers beneath the bed. There's a space down there where he could hide, but it's blocked by 2 duffel bags full of clothes. He could pull them out, squeeze in, pull the duffel bags back in front of him. The trucker would never know he was there. But even before he can get the first duffel bag out, the door swings open. Connor just stands there, unable to react, as the trucker reaches in to grab his jacket and sees him. "Whoa! Who are you? What the hell are you doing in my truck?" The police car cruises slowly past behind them. "Please," Connor says, his voice suddenly squeaky, like he got before his voice changed. "Please don't tell anyone. I've got to get out of this place." He reaches into his backpack, fumbling, and pulls out a wad of bills from his pocket. "You want money? I've got money. I'll give you all I got." "I don't want your money," the trucker says. "All right, then what?" Even in the dim light, the trucker must see the panic in Connor's eyes, but he doesn't say a thing. "Please," says Connor again. "I'll do anything you want." The trucker looks at him in silence for a moment more. "Is that so?" he finally says. Then he steps inside and closes the door behind him. Connor shuts his eyes, not daring to consider what he's just gotten himself into. The trucker sits beside him. "What's your name?" "Connor." Then he realizes a moment too late he should probably use a fake name. The trucker scratches his beard stubble and thinks for a moment. Let me show you something, Connor. He reaches over Connor and grabs, of all things, a deck of cards from a little pack hanging next to the bed. Did you ever see this? The trucker takes the deck of cards in one hand and does a skillful one-handed shuffle. Pretty good, huh? Connor, not knowing what to say, just nods. How about this? And then the trucker takes a single card with the sleight of his hand and makes the card vanish into thin air. Then he reaches over and pulls the card right out of Connor's shirt. You like that? Connor lets out a nervous laugh. Well, those tricks you just saw? The trucker says. I didn't do 'em. I don't know what you mean. The trucker rolls up his sleeves to reveal that the arm which had done the tricks had been grafted at the elbow. 10 years ago, fell asleep at the wheel, the trucker tells him. Big accident. I lost an arm, a kidney, and a few other things. I got new ones, though, and I pulled through. He looked at his hands. Now Connor can see that the trick cart hand is a little different from the other one. The trucker's other hand has thick fingers, and the skin is a bit more olive in tone. So, Connor says, you got dealt a new hand. The trucker laughs at that. Then he becomes quiet for a moment, looking at his replacement hand. These fingers here knew things the rest of me didn't. Muscle memory, they call it. And there's not a day goes by where I don't wonder what other incredible things the kid who owned this arm knew before he got unwound, whoever he was. The trucker stands up. You're lucky you came to me, he says. There are truckers out there who'll take whatever you offer and turn you in anyway. And you're not like that? No, I'm not. Puts out his hand, his other hand, and Connor shakes it. Josias Aldridge. I'm heading north from here. You can ride with me until morning. Connor's relief is so great, it takes the wind right out of him. He can't even offer a thank you. That bed's not the most comfortable in the world, says Aldridge, but it'll do the job. Get yourself some rest. I just gotta go take a dump, and then we'll be on our way. Then he closes the door, and Connor listens to his footsteps heading off towards the bathroom. Connor finally lets his guard down, and he begins to feel his own exhaustion. The trucker didn't give him a destination, just a direction, and that's fine. North, south, east, west, didn't matter as long as we're away from here. As for his next move, well, first he's got to get through this one before he can think about what comes next. A minute later, Connor's already beginning to doze when he hears a shout from outside. We know you're in there! Come out and you won't get hurt! Connor's heart sinks. Josias Aldridge has apparently pulled another sleight of the hand. He's made Connor appear for the police. Abracadabra. With his journey over it before it even began, Connor swings the door open to see 3 juvie cops aiming weapons. But they're not aiming at him. In fact, their backs are to him. Across the way, the cab door swings open of a truck he had hidden under a few minutes before, and a kid comes out from behind the empty driver's seat, his hands in the air. Connor recognizes him right away. It's a kid he knows from school, Andy Jameson. My God, is Andy being unwound too? There's a look of fear on Andy's face, but beyond it is something worse, a look of utter defeat. That's when Connor realizes his own folly. He'd been so surprised by the turn of events that he's just still standing there, exposed for everyone to see. Well, the policemen don't see him, but Andy does. He catches sight of Connor, holds his gaze for only a moment, and then in that moment something remarkable happens. The look of despair on Andy's face is suddenly replaced by a steely resolve bordering on triumph. He quickly looks away from Connor, takes a few steps before the police grab him, stepping away from Connor so that the police still have their backs to him. Andy had seen him, and he had not given him away. If Andy has nothing else after this day, at least he'll have that small victory. Connor leans back into the shadows of the truck and slowly pulls the doors closed. Outside, as the police take Andy away, Connor lies back down, and his tears come as suddenly as a summer downpour. He's not sure who he's crying for For Andy, for himself, for Ariana, for not knowing, makes his tears flow all the more. Instead of wiping the tears away, he lets them dry on his face like he used to when he was a little boy. The things he cried about were so insignificant that they'd be forgotten by morning. The trucker never comes to check on him. Instead, Connor hears the engine and feels the truck pulling out. The gentle motion of the road rocks him to sleep. The ring of Connor's cell phone wakes him out of a deep sleep. He fights consciousness. He wants to go back to the dream he was having. It was about a place he was sure he'd been to, although he couldn't quite remember when. He was at a cabin on a beach with his parents before his brother was born. Connor's leg had fallen through a rotted board on the porch, spiderwebs so thick they felt like cotton. Connor had screamed and screamed from pain and fear of the giant spiders that he was convinced would eat his leg off. And yet, this was a good dream, a good memory, because his father was there to pull him free and carry him inside, where they bandaged his leg and sat him down by the fire, with some cider so flavorful he could still taste it when he thought about it. His father told him a story that he could no longer remember, but it was all right. It wasn't the story, but the tone of voice that mattered, a gentle baritone rumble, as calming as the waves breaking on the shore. Little boy Connor drank his cider and leaned against his mother, pretending to fall asleep. But what he was really doing was trying to dissolve into the moment, make it last forever. In the dream, he did dissolve. His whole being flowed into the cider cup, and his parents placed it gently on the table, close enough to the fire to keep it warm forever and always. Stupid dreams. Even the good ones are bad, because they remind you of how poorly reality measures up. His cell phone rings again, chasing away the last of the dream. Connor almost answers it. The sleeper room of the truck is so dark he doesn't realize at first that he's not in his own bed. The only thing that saves him is that he can't find his phone, and he must turn on a light. When he finds the wall where his nightstand should be, he realizes this isn't his room. The phone rings again, and that's when it all comes back to him. He remembers where he is. Connor finds his phone in his backpack. The phone ID says the call is from his father. So now his parents know he's gone? Do they really think he'll answer his phone? He waits until voicemail takes the call, then he turns off the power. His watch says 7:30 a.m. He rubs the sleep out of his eyes, trying to calculate how far they've come. The truck isn't moving anymore, but they must have traveled at least 200 miles while he slept. It's a good start. There's a knock on the door. Come out, kid. Your ride's over. Connor's not complaining. It was outrageously generous of this trucker to do what he did. Connor won't risk any more out of him. He swings the door open and steps out to thank the man, but it's not Josiah Aldridge at the door. Aldridge is a few yards away, being handcuffed, and in front of Connor is a policeman, a juvie cop wearing a smile as big as all outdoors. Standing 10 yards away is Connor's father, still holding the cell phone he'd just used to call from. It's over, son, his father says. It makes Connor furious. I'm not your son, he wants to shout. I stopped being your son when you signed the Unwind order. But the shock of the moment leaves him speechless. It had been so stupid of Connor to leave his cell phone on. That's how they tracked him. And he wonders how many other kids are caught by their own blind trust of technology. Well, Connor's not going the way Andy Jameson did. He quickly assesses the situation. The truck has been pulled over to the side of an interstate by two highway patrol cars and a juvie cop unit. The traffic barrels past 70 miles per hour, oblivious to the little drama unfolding on his shoulder. Connor makes a split-second decision and bolts, pushing the officer against the truck and racing across the busy highway. Would they shoot an unarmed kid in the back, he wonders, or would they shoot him in the legs to spare his vital organs? As he races into the interstate, cars swerve around him, but he keeps going. Connor, stop! He hears his father yell. Then he hears a gunfire. He feels the impact, but not on his skin. The bullet beds in his backpack. He doesn't look behind him. And then he reaches the highway median. He hears another gunshot, and a small blue splotch appears in the center of the divider. They're firing tranquilizer bullets. They're not taking him out, they're trying to take him down. and they're much more likely to fire tranq bullets at will than regular bullets. Connor climbs over the center divider and finds himself in the path of a Cadillac that's not stopping for anything. The car swerves to avoid him, and by sheer luck, Connor's momentum takes him just a few inches out of the caddy's path. Its side mirror smacks him painfully in the ribs before the car screeches to a halt, sending the acrid stench of burned rubber into his nostrils. He holds his aching side. Connor sees someone looking at him from an open window in the back seat. It's another kid, dressed all in white. The kid is terrified. With the police already reaching the center divider, Connor looks into his eyes of the frightened kid and knows what he has to do. It's time for another split-second decision. He reaches through the window, pulls up the lock, and opens the door.